Our next segment, and I built this graphic here. Harm, I know you're not a big Pokemon guy.
Goodness.
But I want to give the opportunities here for good, great, or godly returns for certain situations for the Canucks.
What am I looking at?
Do you know which Pokemon these are?
No.
So that's Machop, that's Machoke, and that's Machamp as they evolve from their first form to the third form.
Wow. That's incredible.
Zephyr Epic. They're going to love having their logo on this. Okay. Check this out on the YouTube, folks, for the podcast listeners. Let's get to it. 3 different situations. We touched on this last week, and we'll start actually with the one that we did last week. And I felt like it was when we talked about Luke Shen and the trade value for him. A good deal, a great deal, and a godly deal. And I think we talked about this. Hey, listen, a good deal is you get a 3rd round pick from Luke Shen. A great deal is you get a 2nd round pick for Luke Shen. I don't know if godly is even going to get you a first unless you're Stephane Roger, but the godly deal to me is like you get a 2nd and a prospect. So like a B-level prospect. How do you look at the Luke Shen going good, great, and godly for the 3 possible returns?
I think you kind of nailed it. You kind of stole my thunder from the conversation we had last week.
Because I know you like to talk crap about Stephane too, Harm. I heard the Bandcast this week.
Oh, come on, man. Stephane's a good dude. Don't rag on him.
He's a good dude. Well, he's okay. Quad's his favorite.
But yeah, I mean, you kind of stole my thunder. I'm not gonna lie. Like
So
my big take, I was gonna swoop in and be like,
yeah,
your godly isn't even a 1st round pick.
I don't think that's it either. I think that's the interesting thing is like if you're trading it for a 4th round pick for Luke Shen, maybe like things have fallen off and you're like, okay, you got the 4th out of here. It's still nice to add something because you're gonna lose him anyways.
It obviously be disappointing if it's just
exactly. It would be disappointing. So that's why I didn't put it in the good category. So let's talk about the Bo Horvat trade a little bit for a good, great, and godly return. We've touched on it quite a bit. So let's skip great here. Let's just do good and godly. I think the godly one we've already covered a little bit. It's new hook, it's a 1st, and whatever other piece to me, really, right? Yeah. Like I think that's good value because
great package.
Yeah, you're getting a good prospect who's at the NHL level, who's got a ton of talent, local kid, 1st round pick as well, which I mentioned. Hey, maybe use that as like a big swing in this year's first.
And he could
round.
Be a center.
Yep,
he's drafted as natural center. I think he's got potential if he pans out to be a 2C.
Mm-hmm. Good BCHL kid as well.
Yeah,
I mean that's to me the godly deal. What's a good deal? Because I think we can say like, hey, listen, if Horvat gets moved in the end for a 2nd round pick and a half decent prospect, but at least he's a right D prospect. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, like that's fine. And that might be the route that the Canucks go if they really are targeting position. And this is why I say sacrificing value is going to hurt if you do put yourself into a spot where it needs to be this type of position player. So what's like a good deal? Just like, we're not talking great. We're not talking godly. If you were to just put it out as a return, what's just like a good Bo Horvat trade? You look at it and you're like, okay, they got market value, maybe just a little bit above. Because I think a lot of teams are going to be bidding. We had Frank on the show yesterday, and his last article with the trade targets list was begin the bidding for Bo Horvat, right? Like that's what the teams are going to start doing. He's saying yesterday on the show that teams are calling. So we do have some bids probably on the table already. What's one of the good ones right now?
So one comparable at the deadline last season, and Bo Horvat's better than him, was Andrew Kopp. He went for, I mean, there were a bunch of conditions involved, and I think New York had to get to the 3rd round for that 2nd round pick to become a 1st. But in the end, it was a 1st, a 2nd, and Morgan Barron, who's a bottom 6 player who's helping the Jets right now as a young guy. So if you look at that kind of template, and maybe you'd argue that the Jets got more for Kopp than they initially expected, but I think from that perspective, you'd be hoping for an upgraded version of that as like a good, like nothing special, but good. So, I mean, the skeleton there would be a 1st. You'd want to upgrade the 2nd to a better prospect, maybe.
Sure.
And instead of a bottom 6 sort of winger like Barron, you'd maybe hope that it's a 3rd sort of roll of the dice, maybe on, an okay, like I don't know the best way to describe it, but like a B- sort of someone who's a little bit better than Jack Studnicka. Like I don't think that's would be
Yeah,
great.
I've seen
But
the island. Did you see the Islanders trade that was floating up by one of their blogs?
yeah,
It was Bolduc was kind of an example of like a left shot defenseman. Not, I mean, he's kind of B-
yeah,
to me, right? He's not
yeah.
nothing
Like
going to
that
blow you
would
up.
be an example of like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's a
That's
good
better than
third
Studnicka.
piece.
That's a young player.
But
Third
by the
piece.
way, that article, I don't know how many people saw it. The proposals didn't even include Ratty.
Yeah, the proposal.
Like,
is not
come
great.
on.
I'm bringing up the defensive that makes sense.
I know, yeah.
I think that is the type of thing where you do look at it and you say, listen, to me, that's good to great if you get Ratty, Bolduc, and a first.
And
That's
there you
good
go.
to great territory.
Yeah, and with Ratty, that's an example of he's not going to help your lineup right away.
Right.
But he's got upside. He's got serious potential. And if your amateur scouting staff believes in him, because, I mean, there was a point where for that, what was he, like a 2021 draft pick?
Yep.
Yeah, like there was a time when he was expected to be a top 5, like in contention for number 1 overall.
Yeah, he was supposed to go number 1. Like when he was 16, very similar to Brad Lambert as well. It's just like this guy was going to go number 1. But that's why it was so crazy. I had a good conversation with Tommy, who covers, we see him in the press box covering for Finland over there. But like, it's weird that it happened back-to-back years where a guy completely fell off. One of the Finns players. But yeah, Ratty right now is playing in the AHL. He's got 5 goals and 6 assists. And that's good. He's 20 years old, right? Like he's a young player. You get him in your AHL system. He's one that I believe can play a little. I'm trying to remember the World Juniors last year if he was a center. I think he was. And I tell you what, he looked really good at the World Juniors just from like a play standpoint last year, where he had 3 goals, 7 assists in 10 games. So that's the piece, right? That's the player piece that you want to target.
I mean, I don't know Ratty's game inside out to be like, oh, like he's the guy that they should target. But you're
the type of guy, though.
The type of guy, right? Like in terms of pedigree, potential, talent, age. Like those are the sorts of boxes that you're hoping to check with one of your 3 pieces or whatever.